This week on BuzzFeed Unsolved, we cover the Axeman killer of New Orleans, one of the strangest serial killer cases I've ever read.
And you've read a lot.
Yeah, I read a lot in my time.
You're a sicko.
I'm not a sicko, I'm interested in, you know. Okay, maybe I'm a little weird, but this guy had a flair for the dramatic. I think you're gonna enjoy it.
Okay, all right.
Let's get into it. Starting in 1918, over a period of roughly 18 months, the city of New Orleans and surrounding areas were rocked by a serial killer that would later go by the name the Axeman. The Axeman was the manifestation of the boogeyman, lurking in the shadows of New Orleans, almost exclusively attacking at night, and is possibly responsible for 12 attacks and 6 killings. In chilling fashion, he only seemed to strike people while they slept in their beds.
I love this right off the bat.
What do you love about it?
Well, I'll tell you what. I love it when serial killers have a fun little thing. I don't approve of serial killers, but I think if you're gonna kill a bunch of people, you might as well have some fun with it.
I feel like you have baseball cards of this guy.
I absolutely do not. They don't make serial killer baseball cards though, do they?
If they did, you'd probably own them.
You would own them.
No, I think you would own them too.
I'd be like, I'll trade you a Gacy for a...
I'll trade you a Gacy for a Zodiac.
Yeah.
The Axeman eerily never used his own tools. He only used what he could find on hand in the victims' households, usually an axe, which he typically left behind at the scene of the crime.
Everybody had an axe back in the day, huh?
Yeah, you know, my biggest takeaway from this case is why not just throw your axe away? Yeah, it's literally the first thing I would do. But these people were like, leave the axe in the shed.
Hope he doesn't take my axe.
I know.
I've got my porch axe, my shed axe, my kitchen axe.
His creepy tendencies now established. Let's get into the timeline. On May 23rd, 1918 at 4901 Magnolia Street, the first suspected Axeman attack occurred. Catherine and Joseph Maggio were struck violently by an axe, a straight razor used on their throats.
Wait, he hit them with the axe and then cut their throats?
I don't know.
It also could have been his, since it was his first one, he was figuring out
if
he was gonna
dabbling in
he was
like different
either
things.
I'll be the Axeman or the Razor Boy. Razor Boy would be a good sidekick for him.
Razor Boy does not sound...
Axeman and Razor Boy?
Axeman, I think, strikes a little bit more fear into my heart than Razor Boy.
Lock your doors, Razor Boy's out tonight.
Catherine had been almost entirely decapitated, and Joseph had suffered many severe injuries. The bodies were discovered by Joseph's brothers, who lived in the same house. Nothing was heard or seen, and no valuables were taken. The bottom panel of the kitchen door was knocked out. All that was found was an axe. So he probably went back here through the back door, because that's usually how he did it.
I assume the only people who saw him were the ones who were killed.
Some of them survived, and they would just report like a large looming figure, like a dark figure. Oh. So he really did become kind of like a boogeyman. It kind of gives me the creeps.
There are beads everywhere in this town.
That means New Orleans. Fingerprinting was around at the time, but was allegedly not yet a standard procedure. A little over a month later, on June 28, 1918, near the corner of Dorgenois and La Harpe Streets, another attack occurred. A severely injured Louis Bessemer and Anna Lowe were discovered by a baker named John Zanka making morning deliveries.
That's sad for a baker.
They actually thought he did it.
They thought the baker did it?
Well, I mean, like anybody naturally. That's why if I ever found a dead body, I don't know if I'd call it in, man.
You wouldn't call it in?
I'd call it in anonymously. I would not want any part of it because that's the first person they look at.
But in today's surveillance state, you would be suspect number one because they'd be like, why'd you call it in anonymously?
Well, then maybe I'll just spend my whole life trying to avoid dead bodies. How about that? Also, this guy didn't know. He was just delivering bread. He opened the door.
He was probably like, good morning, I've got your beignet. Oh my God.
Louis would actually survive the attack, and Anna would survive for another 7 weeks before dying. Anna supposedly recounted to the police that a large white man with a hatchet had attacked them. The bottom panel of their bedroom door was missing, and once again, a bloody axe was left at the scene.
Another beautiful street, though.
It is a beautiful street. The trees in this area are just so nice.
Sometimes even the most beautiful places hold the darkest secrets, though.
Profound. Okay. Roughly a month later, on August 5th, 1918, in an undisclosed home location, Mrs. Ed Schneider was found by her husband in the afternoon at their home. Mrs. Schneider was still alive and rushed to Charity Hospital and would reportedly survive the attack. Upon investigation, it was discovered that their axe was missing from their shed. Mrs. Schneider was also pregnant, and I'm happy to report that in the week following the attack, she successfully gave birth.
Good for her.
Yeah, that's
something.
That's a super mom right there.
Is that the only axe baby out of this whole story?
I think that's.
Can you imagine being an axe baby?
I don't know if that's a thing.
I'd go around telling everybody, one of one.
My mom took a
one of a kind baby, axe baby.
My mom took some hard steel to the noggin, and then I popped out.
Jesus.
5 days later, on August 10th, 1918, reportedly near Tonti and Gravier Street, 80-year-old Joseph Romano was found by his nieces Pauline and Mary after they heard him struggling. His head was bashed in. The two girls allegedly saw the attacker and described him as, quote, dark, tall, heavy-set, wearing a dark suit and a black slouch hat, end quote. Joseph Romano would die 2 days later.
This guy sounds like the villain from Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, he does. What's a slouch hat?
I think it's, I don't know. I was about to talk out of my ass there. Are you gonna Google that?
I'm gonna look up a slouch hat, because that sounds like something I need.
Right now we're at the site of the 4th attack.
Think the yellow house?
It may be. We just know it was on this corner.
Honestly, this Axeman might just be a fan of quaint houses.
He's a fan of corners too.
Not that it's okay to kill anybody, but the elderly above all.
Yeah. Really, at least he lived a full life, right?
Oh, you're right, actually.
Well, he didn't. I'm sure that's not how he wanted to go out when he was picturing retirement.
Well, nobody does.
Getting hit with an axe.
I rescind my statement. Maybe if you're gonna be a serial killer,
maybe kill elderly people.
Kill the elderly.
That's a weird thing to advocate, but
I mean, but they've lived a long life.
That's true.
Around this time, August 1918, the New Orleans State's newspaper allegedly recounted, quote, armed men are keeping watch over their sleeping families, while the police are seeing to solve the mysteries of the axe attacks. Extra police are being put to work daily, end quote. And when looking at the timeline, it apparently worked. For a while, that is. As nearly 7 months later, on March 10th, 1919, the Cortimiglia family was attacked. Rose Cortimiglia woke to her husband Charles fighting the Axeman, a fight that Charles would lose. Rose and their 2-year-old daughter Mary were also attacked. Rose and Charles would actually survive, but their daughter tragically did not. In typical Axeman fashion, the axe used belonged to the Cortimiglias.
Did they call it Axeman fever or Axemania?
Or did they call him Axie?
Were they like, everybody in town's got Axeman fever as the terror continues to grip the community?
This just in, throw away your axes.
This just in, more skulls crushed. Whoa, throw out your axes.
5 days later, a New Orleans newspaper called the Times-Picayune received a letter from the apparent Axeman. Quote, hell, March 13th, 1919. Esteemed mortal, they have never caught me and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether which surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a fell demon from hot as hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. End quote.
This guy's a poet laureate.
I know.
This is incredible. Was this Robert Frost?
He also goes on to insult and threaten the police. Quote, they have been so utterly stupid so as to amuse not only me, but his satanic majesty, but tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better that they never were born than for them to incur the wrath of the Axeman. End quote.
It is very Old Testament.
It's like most serial killers just like to stroke themselves, and this is just...
He was right, and he was
just...
like, let's see. The devil, his satanic majesty.
Jesus Christ.
That'll get him. Time to go murder again.
He also goes on to remind the people that he could be worse. Quote, undoubtedly, you Orleanians think of me as a most horrible murderer, which I am, but I could be much worse if I wanted to. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, for I am in close relationship with the angel of death, end quote.
Not to discredit him, but he is killing people in their sleep with an axe. And what's his success rate?
I gotta say, your striking power and aim isn't Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, you should be batting 1,000 at that point.
You should be batting 1,000.
However, the most important clause is a specific threat that would terrify the entire New Orleans community. Quote, now, to be exact, at 12:15 o'clock earthly time, on next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to the people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music. and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose house a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well then, so much the better for the people. One thing is certain, and that is some of those persons who do not jazz it on Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe.
Jazz it!
Quote.
You better jazz it!
He turned jazz into
Honey,
a verb.
we gotta jazz it.
He turned jazz into a
I'm not
verb.
gonna throw out this axe, so we better jazz it. He's a bit like Santa Claus.
Okay, I'd like
First
to
of
hear
all, he says he's gonna pass over New Orleans. That's a bit magical.
Sure.
Just imagine him flying through the skies with his big axe, riding a crocodile or an alligator, whatever they got.
Or a demon.
Traveling on demon's wings and just looking down at all the little houses, listening for jazz. It's like the good and the bad.
So he's like
list.
the Grinch trying to listen to the Whoville people sing.
Exactly right.
I still don't understand how he's Santa Claus. Santa Claus never bashed anyone's head in with a big sack of toys.
That's true, but he does give him coal.
What? This letter would later spark the creation of a jazz song entitled Don't Scare Me Papa, also known as the mysterious Axeman's Jazz. The Tuesday night mentioned in the letter was March 19th, 1919. It is said that the city was truly alive that night, as people blasted jazz music in their homes, and those who did not have a record player poured into local jazz clubs to stay clear of the Axeman's wrath. It's worth mentioning that nobody was killed on March 19th, 1919. So he kept his word. Apparently everyone was jazzing it.
You know what, he was probably just gonna be out of town.
He thought, wouldn't this be funny?
I've got a business trip that weekend.
Let's see how many smokers I can make dance.
Yeah.
On August 10th, 1919, Steve Boca was badly injured in his home after he awoke to a man next to his bed with an axe. Boca managed to survive the attack, reportedly staggering to a friend's home, who then called the police. Boca did not regain his memory, likely due to the blows to the head.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that usually does it.
Yeah.
I once fell into a pile of bricks when I was a kid.
What?
And I don't remember much of it after that.
What?
Yeah, I was climbing because we were playing hide and seek. I was trying to hide and I thought I had the best hiding spot. Turns out I was wrong. The branch broke and I just
This
fell.
explains a lot. You fell into
And after
that
that I could see ghosts.
I don't think it gave you the vision.
It gave me my eyes.
I think it put a hole in your brain.
Later that month, or in early September, on 2128 2nd Street, 19-year-old Sarah Lawman was reportedly attacked by someone who entered through an open window. When she regained consciousness, she could not recall details of the attack. So this is the site of the second to last attack. And apparently the house is gone.
Yeah.
About 2 months later, on October 27th, 1919, at the corner of South Scott and Ulloa Street, the suspected Axeman attacked Esther and Mike Pepitone. Esther reportedly awoke around 1 a.m. to her husband screaming and ran to the bedroom. Her husband's head was struck 18 times and died 2 hours later. Esther saw 2 figures in the bedroom, but could not identify them as they fled the scene. By the way, 2 figures.
Razor Boy.
Oh my God, no.
He's back.
No, we're not calling that.
He's back from boarding school.
A bolt with a heavy nut, something used to secure a circus tent, was one of the apparent weapons. There was a circus on the nearby Tulane Avenue that weekend.
Was this the last one?
Yes.
If this guy survived for 2 hours after getting struck 18 times, the Axeman probably wasn't used to that kind of resilience. He probably hit him once and the guy was like, oh boy, what a bump. And he was like, all right, I guess I'll hit you again. And he was like, oh my goodness, that didn't feel much better. I was like, 3, 4, 5.
This takes us to the supposed end of the Axeman's killing spree. And with that, let's get into the theories. The first theory is that perhaps not all of the killings were the work of the Axeman. Some speculate that the Axeman's presumed final killing of Mike Pepitone was actually a mafia killing, due to Mike Pepitone's father killing a man in the past. Another Axeman attack that is scrutinized is the second attack on Louis Bessemer and Anna Lowe. If you'll recall, Louis Bessemer was severely injured, and his partner Anna Lowe was killed in that same attack. However, Bessemer was charged with the murder of Anna in bizarre fashion. Police found that Bessemer had written letters back and forth in Yiddish and Russian. They eventually came to the conclusion that Bessemer was part of a German spy ring or spy master for the Kaiser, and the attack had nothing to do with the Axeman.
A spy's not gonna bash someone's head in with an axe.
And then bash his own head in.
Right. He's gonna lower a string from the ceiling and put a drop of poison on it and let that poison fall into a sleeping person's mouth. Right in there.
Well, if they're sleeping, then why don't you just drop it into their mouth like a little droplet thing? Why the string?
I don't know. That's what spies do. That's just what they do.
That's the first time I've heard that. I think you just made
Everybody
that up.
does that.
I think you made it up.
I did not make it up.
Okay.
It happens in a James Bond film.
Which one?
The racist one, where he's in Japan.
Before dying, Anna Lowe allegedly blamed her partner Louis Bessemer and said that he was a Nazi spy. They also theorized that this case was a domestic dispute that ended with Louis attacking Anna. Nonetheless, Louis Bessemer was acquitted. There were definitely things that suggested this was the work of the Axeman, mainly the fact that it happened at home at night while they were sleeping with an axe.
That would take such an enormous amount of fortitude to be able to be, really smash someone. And then also, like, I have a hard time pulling off a Band-Aid.
Though you are a wimp, and if anyone would have mental fortitude to do something that would be painful, it would be a spy, wouldn't they?
I just think it's very rich that you're calling me a wimp.
Yeah.
Because you hear a footstep and you go into, oh, I better hide under the bed.
In vain with this theory, it's also speculated on the internet that some of the killings of the Axeman could have been the work of a copycat. The second theory is that given the context of his bizarre letter, some believe the Axeman to be a supernatural figure that could slip through tiny entranceways and become the large man that witnesses describe the killer to be.
No.
It's just a theory.
It's dumb. He shrunk down like a little mouse? Is that what you're saying? He's like Ant-Man? He's like, now I'm big, time to die.
At what point?
The last theory is actually a legitimate suspect, a man named Joseph Mumfree. To start on Mumfree, let's return to the Axeman's last crime, the attack on Esther and Mike Pepitone. If you recall, Esther survived the attack and her husband did not. Esther later moved to Los Angeles and remarried to a man named Angelo Albano. However, on the second anniversary of her former husband Mike's death by the Axeman, her current husband Angelo disappeared and was never found again. Esther recalled that before their marriage, Angelo had ended business relations with a man who went by many names, including Joseph Mumfree. On December 5th, 1921, Mumfree visited Esther's home at 554 East 36th Street in Los Angeles. He demanded $500 and Esther's jewelry, threatening that he would, quote, kill her the same way he had killed her husband, end quote. But, like a badass, Esther then killed him with a revolver.
Whoa, good for her.
We've had two badass ladies in this story. The girl who got whacked over the head still gave birth and survived, and then this girl who got threatened and was like, oh, fuck that.
Well, you know what I'll do is I'll shoot you.
This is the spot where Esther shot Joseph Mumfree to death. Kind of crazy to think that this may be the location where the Axeman actually was killed. Good for you, Esther. Shoot him in the face.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you do?
If he actually indeed killed two of her husbands, whether or not he's the Axeman, shoot him in the face.
Yeah, face full of bullets. You had it coming.
Give him a bullet sandwich. Now, what does this have to do with the Axeman? Given the fact that Esther was present for the Axeman slaying of her husband Mike Pepitone, when Esther was arrested for shooting Joseph Mumfree, she claimed that Mumfree was the Axeman and had seen him run from her bedroom the night her husband was slain. The LAPD noted that there was evidence linking Mumfree to the death of Mike Pepitone, and Esther was acquitted for Mumfree's death. Here are some other things that seem to suggest Joseph Mumfree was the Axeman. Upon investigation, the police found that Mumfree led a blackmailing gang in New Orleans that preyed on Italians, and almost all of the Axeman's victims were Italians.
These guys are racist?
Most of them were Italian grocers.
Whoa, fuck this guy.
This is what made you turn?
If there's already the basis that he's gonna be killing, I do not approve of that, but if he's gonna do it, then at least do it randomly.
I think just how about don't kill people?
Look, Ryan, what are we here for? I thought we were here to get into the mind of a serial killer.
I know, I'm just saying, what if they all just happen to be Italian grocers?
Oh, that's rich. It all just happened to be, yeah, that'll hold up in court.
Mumphrey was in and out of prison for the past 10 years, and his time outside of prison coincided with attacks by the Axeman. That being said, there was not enough evidence to directly link Mumphrey to the crimes, and eyewitnesses can be wrong. Only circumstantial evidence led people to believe Mumphrey was the killer. If you'll recall, Esther Pepitone originally said there were 2 men in her bedroom the night her first husband was killed, so either she's lying, or is the Axeman, perhaps multiple people.
What do you think?
I think
that's it, by the way.
It very well could be him. I know it says there's not a lot of evidence, but that was sort of the sweet spot for serial killers, right?
I think it may have been a series of copycat killers.
Yeah, that sounds likely.
Leading a blackmailing gang in New Orleans that preys on Italians. What a strange thing to spearhead.
I've never even heard of a blackmailing gang.
What does a blackmailing gang do?
They just get together and they're like, I saw this guy fucking a goat.
In the end, there aren't many leads on the identity of the notorious New Orleans Axeman. Was this the work of a series of copycats? Or was this the result of one troubled individual? For now, the case remains unsolved.
If someone started bashing people's heads in Los Angeles, it was like, if you don't play Bruno Mars every Tuesday,
play Bruno.
I'm gonna be very angry.
You're not Brunoing on Tuesday night.
If we don't Bruno it.
Me and the devil are big fans of Bruno.